All right, welcome everyone to the Infinite
I think it's
Expansion
pre-recorded.
channel. I'm going to be your host, Tim, of the Last American Vagabond. I'm here with, I guess you could call it the TLAV Roundtable. We're still working on the name there, but I'm here with Jay, uh,
Hello.
Anthony,
Greetings.
and Bob.
How's it going?
And so today, just wanted to kind of get into discussion about how we woke up, kind of introduce everyone here, since we're going to try to be putting out some more videos. Just want to do a video on how we all woke up, because we know everyone in the alternative community has had that experience, wake up. And so just wanted to go around and introduce everyone, tell their story on how they woke up, and yeah. So I guess first we'll start here with Bob. Bob, how did you wake up, and what's it been like?
Well, I've never really been a morning person, so I feel like I've had a slow, kind of groggy path to gaining enlightenment on these many issues that a lot of people are just kind of totally unaware of, And I guess it started slowly when I was young. I was like super into rock and roll, and so that got me into like the occult and things like that. And then I actually I'm super anti-military now, but when I was like 7 through maybe like 14, I was probably one of the most like propagandized little American minds out there, like super military, super gun-ho. And then I was at the same time I was a very liberal person, and so when I realized the kind of contradiction going on there in terms, that really started to change stuff, and seeing all the kind of just utter bullshit that was happening in the early 2000s with from 9/11 all the way through the Iraq War up till today hasn't really let up. Just like seeing that, it slowly cracks the whole kind of visage that you get if you follow everything the mainstream media says and all that kind of stuff. And so,
What age was it when you first started waking up?
I guess it was probably like 16, 17, started kind of getting into the stuff.
Okay.
At the time, I didn't really, I was pretty agnostic about what happened in 9/11 and stuff like that. I just knew that it wasn't a bunch of Arabs, because not that the story was different from what we were being told, because there was just so much, going against it. So kind of like slowly starting there, but that, I think that was a time of distraction where I went and followed a lot of disinfo and misinfo and stuff like that. I didn't really parse for good truth in a certain sense, and I think that's you got to really tune your bullshit-o-meter. It takes a long time. I don't think it's ever perfectly tuned,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so.
Was there one big? I know you said there was many. You are still kind of awakening, but was there one big thing that really kind of started it off?
I guess this wasn't so much to start it off. This is where it really, I'd say, kicked into a new gear. Was in college, just kind of I was studying economics and learning what they were teaching me in my economics class at the university I went to, and then actually looking at the world and having a new ability to understand it in these economic terms, and seeing how the reality that you're being handed in a classroom and the reality that you can see right in front of you, in front of your eyes, how they don't match up. You're just like, whoa. And so when I started to realize that it's a system of control in terms of the money supply and the news media and the banks and all that, once I started to really see all that kind of coming together, I couldn't really name an event. Maybe some documentary I watched, The Money Masters or something, which is this old, I think it's from the early 90s, but it's this old conspiracy video about the banking industry and how they did all that. I'm much less interested in that stuff nowadays, but I think that's when I really kind of started seeing all the pieces falling into place a little bit there.
So it's kind of the banking system that kind of somewhat started it, and then I'm guessing you've gotten into other topics as you've gone along.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think it's a holistic search that one has to be pursuing with it, because you can follow one thread for a really long time, and you can find out a lot of great information about it, become a total expert. But when you see how that starts connecting with all the other disparate kind of things that like at play in the world, I think that even having, like you can, uh, by bringing more things, I guess, into the picture, you allow all of those pieces of information to be more informative, I guess, in terms of the way you're able to kind of build an understanding and a wisdom of what's actually happening. So I think it's got to be a multifaceted approach. Like, Anthony was talking earlier about like quantum physics and science and stuff like that. I think that absolutely ties in with like spirituality and all those things. And those are the powers that the powers that be are in power of, because most people aren't aware of those kinds of things and aren't looking for them too. And so
I would totally agree with that. Like how they all interconnect. You go one area and then it literally leads to some other tangent, and the next thing you know, you're on another tangent. But somehow they're all connecting back to the same kind of thing. I guess I kind of call it like it's all connecting to consciousness, like all kind of consciousness to describe reality. You guys got any questions for Bob here? Anyone?
Well, I don't know, since we're talking about general research points of interest, I know you and I briefly touched on your interest in the occult. Now, what kind of specific avenues of the occult have you researched more than others, or would care to comment on?
Well, so I've gotten, back, like I was saying in my little intro, like in high school I was really into like, Led Zeppelin and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So those two things kind of pushed me towards
occultic.
Huh?
So both very occultic.
Oh yeah, very occultic indeed. So those pushed me into the kind of directions of with Zeppelin you got a lot of thelema and Crowleyism going on there.
Right.
And then with the Chili Peppers, of course, it's all chaos magic, and so I've those were just very formative influences on my life before I was very interested in it, and then it just like slowly started trickling in, and then I think what really kind of brought me into occultism was kind of these sort of alt joke parody religions like Discordianism or my Google account here's namesake, the Church of the Subgenius, headed by J.R. Bob Dobbs, and so like those kinds of things. They're silly, but they started to kind of drive me down the different avenues that I'd follow with it. And like you were talking about studying Freemasonry. Like I'm not a Freemason myself, but I do find it to be pretty fascinating system and things like that. But then I think there's also a lot to be gleaned from kind of looking at alternative sciences and stuff like that. I think a lot of the reason that those things get that pseudoscience label slapped onto them is because they're actually like really conscious-wise powerful things, consciousness-wise powerful elements that the people at the top don't want other people playing around with a lot, so I think there's a
Well, the dividing line is the corporate dollar in the long run with the science, labeling what is mainstream science and what is pseudoscience as well. So yeah, I would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's all a sense of diversion in the long run. Like you can only really I don't know. Science is in my opinion, and I feel like you share the same mindset, it's really stabbing at just the idea of objective knowledge. And when you really look into the occult and ancient sciences, as you could call them, as I certainly call them, you find that they are as well, once you get past the propaganda that's in any prevalent school of thought, they are as well a search for an objective knowledge. And
absolutely.
Yeah, the separation is really just corporate interpretation. It's really sickening, honestly. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a bummer, I think the people a long time ago didn't see it in such compartmentalized ways, but I think people are also waking up to it. They're starting to break down those walls and realize that it's all one big system connected together,
Yeah, certainly.
Jay, any questions?
No, it just blows my mind. I didn't wake up till recently, and I'm a bit older guy, so man, I was listening to Zeppelin, and I was just grooving on the music. I was listening to Chili Pepper, and I was just Flea's a crazy bass player. I played bass at the time, man, I got none of this other stuff about it. I actually, I remember turning an LP backwards and listening to the backmasking. What is it, Stairway to Heaven? I think it's on. I don't know,
Oh,
but
I
yeah.
think that's it.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff behind it.
So I'm just sitting here thinking, man, what a different life, to wake up, to basically wake up just out of high school. Whew, I went through.
I totally. For me, it wasn't until after college as myself, and so I can only imagine waking up at such a young age. Like I see all these guys on Reddit, man. They're like 15, 16, like already kind of waking up. It's
or even younger. I almost feel bad for the people that are waking up when they're in like junior high school or something like that. And it's like, oh, that's too heavy. It's too much.
Yeah, for real.
For a kid to handle. I'm actually almost grateful that I don't know, grateful, but in a selfish way, I suppose, that I didn't wake up until later because not to get in my story too much, but went through the whole corporate life and all that stuff before I sort of figured it out. So. I don't know, best of both worlds, so I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll move on to Anthony here, a fellow last American vagabonder at the site. Me and Anthony have known each other for, about a year now, I guess. Just met, randomly connected through the site. So, Anthony, how did you wake up?
Well, I guess there's it's always like the old Taoist saying is you start the 1,000-mile journey with the first step. And I don't know where I could really draw the line specifically, but it was certainly, I was talking to you guys before the recording, and I was a rebellious kid. My dad was a cop, and you know what they say about cops' kids and preachers' kids. So, I was smoking pot young and doing all sorts of stuff, and Dad didn't like that, so he sent me to military school, and I had a really great mentor, and I was about, like I said, I was 16 years old, and this guy was a guy that I had met before military school. You got to choose somebody that you would meet with on like a weekly basis for an hour, and he was this old, really cool black dude, grew up in Brooklyn, like really into old school hip hop and stuff, and he would come in every week and give me a book on philosophy, Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism, Taoism, or even like Western philosophy, like contemporary stuff, like Kant and like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. So as all this weird indoctrination military school stuff was going on, my mentor friend was trying to pump my brain full of all these things, and I don't know what it was, but I'm thankful for it every day that for some reason it really stuck with me, as opposed to other people who hear the information, it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. I also think that I could attribute it to the fact that I was stuck in a military school, and it wasn't that bad, but it was a military school, so it was bad enough. You couldn't, you didn't even have music. You got to listen to the radio on like Saturday nights for a couple hours. So really all you had was your own mind and the books that you would read in your free time. And so I started journaling, and I came up with the idea that I really didn't know myself all that well, and so like I said, the only thing you could do in your free time was you could like hang out, you could talk sometimes, and then you could work on homework. And so if I was reading or if I was writing in a journal, I looked like I was doing homework. So it was no skin off my nose really, and so I started categorizing all my thoughts. Like I started making kind of a table of contents, and I tried to go free flow about it. Just because I was so bored and I felt like something needed to change, because I was in military school, for being rebellious and whatnot. So I don't, still necessarily think that I was doing too many bad things, just being a teenager. But still, it forced me to reassess some things, and so I got into things about myself, and then I also got into, discussions of like objective versus subjective reality, and then also, started questioning things more about mainstream media and stuff like that. Although that didn't really come till later. And so as I was doing all this, and my mentor was coming in and giving me books, one when I got out of military school, that was a 5-month process. I had just turned 17, and I didn't really like what was happening at my house, and I wanted to leave, and my parents weren't too keen on it until I was 18, so I split anyway, and yeah, yeah, I just started couch surfing for a little bit, and it wasn't anything too rugged, and it was Anchorage, Alaska, so everyone's pretty homey, for the most part. But eventually I found my way to my great uncle's place, and I've been staying here since. And he was a born and raised Roman Catholic, and he kind of had a waking up moment as well before I came into the house. So he kind of helped foster that idea within me as well. Like, not to get into his whole story or anything, but he started realizing, how the corrupt ties of the Catholic Church, and he started listening to Alex Jones. Although we were talking about that beforehand about how AJ is a little questionable, but for what it's worth, it was pretty cool. So my uncle and I would get stoned. He'd crack open a beer, and we'd talk about conspiracy theory and stuff, and so that kind of got me from the philosophy to the conspiracy theory side of like what's actually happening in the world around us. And before that, I never really gotten into politics very much. And I remember having a conversation with him, like, "Yo, 9/11, that was not like Middle Easterners, was it?" He's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Of course not," And he breaks it all down for me. So, and then I don't know. I was only 18. I was about to turn 19, and I was looking for some bullshit jobs on Craigslist, Anchorage, and for the life of me, I still don't know why our editor Ryan, or how he posted on the Anchorage Craigslist writing classifieds, but I found it, just very randomly. I wasn't even looking for a job in that section. I just check it out because, I've always enjoyed writing, and so you always see what you can stumble across. And I see The Last American Vagabond, and I click on the link, and it's a Craigslist ad, and it says, if I remember right, it's a cartoon, and it has like a sign. It says like "Warning, Police State." And there's like a pot plant growing next to the sign, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I like these guys!" Right? So I emailed Ryan, and I sent him some stuff that I had written, just like some freeform stuff about like psychedelic therapy and stuff like that. And he really liked it, and I just kind of started writing from there, and then that was like that was definitely, you could also say that was kind of like a very massive secondary portion of the waking up process, which I guess is still happening for all of us here, certainly. But is having the, just the, not even like the platform of writing on a website, but having the goal orientation of being like, all right, I have to, do a certain amount of research and come out with a certain piece. That helps you formulate and categorize things in a completely different way, in my opinion. And like that really helped me in and of itself.
I totally agree with you there. When you start writing things for other people, and you want to cover all the areas and give a complete picture, writing it is so much harder than just talking about it, or especially watching something. But when you have to actually explain it, and also try to explain complex topics to people who might not be awake, that's, for me too, that's really helped me grow a lot. Even writing posts on Reddit, but still writing it on a website, I think even takes it a little bit more in a way.
Yeah, that's why I even recommend journaling to people. I mean, but like the internet is cool because that's what blogging is. Even if no one reads your blog, you can still put it out there. You can still formulate your own thoughts and try and break through the dissonance, all the static of bullshit that people are talking about. I mean, that's how I started. I always was slow to use the term blogging. Like, I did not want to call myself a blogger, but I started doing a little bit of podcasting and blogging about like conspiracy theory stuff before even The Last American Vagabond. So, it's just when you can actually verbalize the information within the context of your own brain, you get an understanding of it on definitely a different level.
Definitely. You guys, any of you guys got any questions for Anthony? Nope.
Man,
All
keep
right.
doing what you're doing, man.
Word.
Yeah, I already know Anthony.
Not
I
to
said,
like bring it back to like a totally kind of tangent point, but what is your uncle's opinion on that whole kind of notion of like the Jesuit conspiracy of them kind of controlling it all from the top down?
No, that's
What's
actually a pretty interesting point. See, my uncle has an interesting take on it. He's still a Roman Catholic, so he actually you can do some research. I don't hear it talked about very often in alternative media, but it is a thing. There was in like the end of the 1960s, there's this thing called the Vatican Reformation, and so what we're in is the era of like the Vatican II Reformation, and it's where they did like a reanalysis and a like contextualizing, I guess, of their of a lot of their doctrines, and that's why you see a lot of like transhumanist, new agey concepts with the Vatican today. Like there was an astronomer for the Vatican who talked about like if there is extraterrestrials out there, then God considers them our brothers, and so is the Vatican and shit like that, and they on and on. So um, when you that really kind of that got him looking into it a little bit more, and okay, so that got him looking into it a little bit more. And I was honestly really the one to bring up the Jesuits to him because I had done some research into it. I am definitely not a Catholic. I certainly respect the Catholic faith, because I have family in it, and um, there's a time and a place for every type of spiritual mindset. But when you actually look into the history of it, you can see that the Catholic Church has really in well, it's not just my opinion. I guess I could call it my opinion, but if you do the research, it's there. The Catholic Church was the initial institution of the Big Brother state, the surveillance state, and I really like the idea of Christ because it's very much like an antithesis, like an anarchist mindset.
Yeah, it's going against the Roman Catholic doctrine, that's for sure.
Right, right. And so my uncle is certainly not, he's still, he's like almost 60 years old. He's still kind of stuck in his ways with Catholicism a little bit, but he his opinion of it is that the Catholic Church is the correct doctrine, and I have Buddhas up around my room and stuff. So he tells me as he's laughing that I might as well be drawing cocks on my wall, stuff like that. So he's a kind of guy, I think. Yeah, but he knows what's up, man. I like that guy. And he's hip to the whole Jesuit thing. For those who don't know and are listening, the Jesuit order is kind of like you could say the black ops of the Catholic Church. They do a lot of the dirty deals and stuff like that. A lot of interesting information there, but that's.
I guess we'll save that for another episode.
Right.
You could do a whole episode on that, I guess.
Most definitely.
We could be on here for hours discussing that topic and all the different speculative bubbles around that. But I guess
I wanted to throw out there this thing about the more recent Vatican Reformation. I wonder if that ties into the assassination of JFK, where things really seem to kind of take off, and where the Bush family is like, all right, let's do this thing. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. I can't speak firsthand. I haven't dug into the matter too much, but I've definitely seen some implications with the Vatican Church involved with the JFK assassination. There are all sorts of factions. I've also heard mafia ties and etc.
I've heard mafia ties, but we'll save that one for another time because we'll look up and it'll be an hour past and we're still on Jesuits.
Right.
I guess we'll move on to Jay here from an unspecified location in Costa Rica.
Yes.
So Jay, how did you wake up?
Yeah, well, I guess as we've all said, it's kind of an ongoing process, I suppose. Click on my little box there. I think my microphone is too quiet for it to pull up automatically. But yeah, so
it should be on.
Huh. Okay.
Hey,
Well, I'm up there. Okay. Just, anyhow, so I'm a bit older than you guys. I'm in my mid 40s. I went through school without figuring anything out. I went through college without figuring out everything out. I had a pretty nice career. Everything was pretty good. And I went to visit a friend. I was a liberal, because I figure if you're a good, nice person, you're trying to look out for everybody, and that's all good. Uh, I saw 9/11 go down. I knew something was fishy with that, but I figured it was just, at worst, maybe they knew it was going to happen and they just kind of let it happen because they wanted to go and start a war in the Middle East. I didn't. I pretty much bit, the whole. Those are truthers. What are they talking about? And all that. And I heartily voted for Obama because I thought, hey, hope and change. That's gonna make a big difference. And then I was like, wait, this really isn't that different. They're just they're continuing these wars. They're just doing them with drones and such. And so I was like, okay. So, and then I think the next guy I voted for was a Green Party candidate, and frankly, I don't even remember his name. Yeah, so I figured out the whole left-right thing was bunk, but I still hadn't really figured out the game. And I remember I visited a friend. My friend lived in Belarus, and I would have had to get a visa to visit her in Belarus, but I could go to Ukraine with no visa, and so could she. So I met her in Ukraine. I was a little nervous about the trip because I was thinking, ex-Soviet state, and this is all pre-coup. This was the summer a couple of years ago, before the whole coup went down that put Poroshenko in power. And I remember thinking, oh man, I bet the cops over there are going to be hardcore, ex-Soviet cops, because it's starting to get pretty bad in the U.S. I just walked past a cop and they gave me the stink eye for some reason. I'm just a pretty boring-looking white guy. I don't know. So whatever. So I went over there, and the first thing I knew that something was weird is the cops over there were really cool. They were super cool, man. We asked them, hey, what's a good restaurant to eat around here? What's a cool museum to check out? And they're just really nice. They're helpful, nice. I even caught one of them taking a little nip out of a flask, and he saw me see him, and we kind of grinned at each other. He stuck it back in his shirt, and it was all good.
That's awesome.
And also, I just so happened to be in town at the time. There was some meeting with the Russian, basically the Russian Pope, Russian Patriarch Kirill. And actually, I had no idea who he was. I actually shared an elevator with him without knowing who he was.
Wow.
So I basically shared the elevator with Russian Pope. And
that's wild. That would never happen with the other Pope.
No. And I got out of the elevator, and my friend, she was like, "You know who that was?" I was like, "No idea." She said, "That's basically the Russian Pope." I was like, "Oh, okay." Anyhow, and so there was a big meeting there, and actually Putin came to town. And I remember in previous years, one time Obama came to the town that I lived in, and dude, they locked half the city down. You couldn't go there. And then when Putin came to town, they had some cops lining the road, but his motorcade passed, maybe 20 feet right in front of me. If I was in, it's not like they stopped and frisked everybody. If I was a bad guy, I could have taken shots at them. And the cops weren't super aggressive and such. And I asked my friend, are they more worried about security? And she was like, no, man, everybody loves Putin. Why, why would somebody want to hurt? And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't match up with what I've been told. So okay, so that's all good. And I have a nice visit and such. And I come back to the States. I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, that was a little unusual. So I go back to visit my friend again in Belarus because I got the visa, and now this was heading towards that winter when the coup was going down. You know, presented in Western media, which I still basically believed. You know, as a good ex-liberal, I thought, hey, Fox News is crap. You know, they're biased. They're you know, showing the conservative standpoint. But you know, CNN's pretty good. BBC's really good. Maybe Al Jazeera. I know it seems crazy now, but
Same for me, man. Same for me.
yeah, man. So I was looking at that news and I was like, man, there's like a revolution going on right next door, because I was in Belarus at the time. So this is going down right next door. And my friend was like, you don't really know what's happening over there. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's a revolution. They're kicking out the old president. They're putting their new guy in, and she's like, that's not what's happening. What are you talking about? And so she's showing me her Russian news, and it's showing a completely different picture. And of course, I'm thinking Russian propaganda. You know, we've been taught that our whole lives: Russian propaganda, Russian propaganda. I don't know about you guys, but I've heard that phrase probably thousands of times. And so I'm thinking, Gary, you're getting snowed by the Russian propaganda. And I remember, I think I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but I think I was sort of socially woken up, because at one point some of her friends were over, and they were looking at the news on CNN.com and BBC. And they were literally pointing and laughing at the news, and like, can you believe what they're? And I'm like, well, that's the news. It's what? Hey, wait, what? And man, my friend, hats off to her. She was so gentle with me, because I don't think she knew that I was that duped by Western media. Because I didn't know, and it's not something that really would come up in conversation.
Right.
So she didn't push info on me at all. But when I asked, she would give me a straight answer, and I think there's a good lesson in that especially I need to learn, because you want to go out there and spread the truth to everybody, but if they're not ready for it, if they're not looking for it, it's gonna bounce off like a shell. But anyhow, so I distinctly remember I was walking down the main street there, and I remember having this flash that if you're going to lie to your people, the first thing you have to do is convince them that the truth is a lie. Because if your opponent is telling them the truth, you got to account for the difference between your story and their story. And at that point, that's when my knees buckled, and I like fell against the building, and I was like, holy crap, I see what's going on here. I see that CNN and BBC and Fox and MSNBC and all those, they're lying in concert, because you can't. Propaganda doesn't work if you know it's propaganda. If there was one station on TV that's like, is Russian, or here's government propaganda, this government propaganda channel, everybody would just be like, oh, that's garbage. No, everybody would dismiss it. You got to have everything line up. And just over the course of the next day or two, I was like, 9/11, all right, yeah, I got 9/11 now. Well, I thought I had 9/11. I've gone kind of to a deeper level now here, but 9/11 makes sense. JFK's assassination made sense. All these coups going on around the world, this all made sense. The Ukrainian coup, it all made sense. So it all just flooded at me, and I was kind of a basket case for a couple of days. And so anyhow, I came back to the States and quit my job, threw all my stuff in a shipping container, and moved down to Costa Rica, and I've been here ever since.
Right on.
That's it. So I applaud you guys for figuring the game out so young, man. You guys are going to have a different life than I had, and you're going to do a lot more good than I did. I wasn't a bad guy or anything, but I was playing in metal bands and all this kind of stuff. I was hard drinking, all that stuff. So I probably wasn't doing the work that I could have been doing.
I think though, like many people even are not waking up until the last few years, anyways.
Yeah.
I feel like even if you there weren't even that many people waking up in general 15 years ago. So
yeah.
I feel like a lot of
been the crazy guy. Yeah. I feel bad for people that woke up like 20 years ago. In fact, I have an uncle of the same name, Uncle Jay, we'll call him, and I think that's what happened. I think he went to Vietnam. He came back. He figured out the game, and when I was a kid growing up, he was always just crazy Uncle Jay, and he was on and off meds his whole life. And just recently, I asked my mom, I was like, well, what kind of stuff did he talk about? And she's like, oh, I don't know. He talked about like the oil companies own everything and they run everything, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Holy shit.
Like my entire family has basically said this guy is insane and shoved him off to the side because he woke up like 20 years ago. So hats off to my uncle, man. That's a hard road to go down, and it's probably kind of difficult for some of us even right now because the world's waking up at different rates, and even now most of my friends aren't, and my family's not. My family still thinks Arabs flew planes into Twin Towers.
Right.
That's what they think.
Same with me, man.
Yeah.
But I do, I see it changing. I see it really going quicker and quicker. Even like, I feel like smaller topics that aren't as complex, aren't as easy, aren't as covert. They're a little bit more obvious. Are slowly kind of starting people in that trend, nudging them. Like for example, the gold and silver just getting manipulated. Like even like currency markets can kind of push people into the deeper layers a little bit. You see these people who are financial analysts that then go on to be like, into conspiracy knowledge and geopolitics, and then that kind of gets you into the deeper layers, and so I see a lot more people going into these areas.
Yeah, and there's so many areas. I don't think I'll ever say I'm fully woken up. That was like the big moment for me, and just understanding that the media in the Western media is just utterly deceptive, and it keeps the whole U.S. in this artificial reality bubble. I don't know another way to say it. It's like something from a crazy science fiction movie.
I think the best word is probably Matrix.
Yeah. They give a whole new appreciation to that movie. I love the movie, but I just thought, yeah, wow, wait, maybe we're all in a simulation, a computer simulation. Wow, how would you know? That ain't what that movie was about. And Mark Passio does a great, what is it, like a 4-hour dissertation on the Matrix.
Yeah, man. I actually watched that
really good.
about a week ago. Yeah, it was incredible. I like Mark Passio a lot.
He does good work. He does really good work.
Good work and very long work. But if you can sit through it, I mean, it's very interesting. It's just 4 hours is 4 hours, but it's very good.
You guys listen to any of his more recent podcasts?
He seems like he's kind of gotten away from the heavy material, and he's talking about his band and stuff like that, and that's so good, man. He's done his work, in my opinion. He's done his work.
That's for sure.
I want him to just enjoy his life now.
All right, so I guess if you guys got any last questions, or I guess I'll go here, especially since Bob's got to go in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was incredibly interesting, just for time's sake. I guess we might keep it rolling, but yeah, you're quite the character, man. I like you.
I guess I'll go with mine. Yeah, like you can't echo this statement enough, but it's been like a whole series of awakenings. It's like, I always feel like you figured it out, and then boom, your cherries popped. And eventually I think many of us feel this now, is you get to a point where you can't really pop your cherry anymore because you've been duped so many. Like you're just not. If you're wrong, it's like almost exciting. You're like, oh, okay, I got another thing to add under my belt now. You know what I
It
mean?
never stops, man. It never stops.
No, it never stops. But I remember like some very distinct times where I was like, what? I thought I had it. You know, I thought I really kind of had it going, and I was like, oh shit, you know, my whole world is rocked. But after after a few of them, then I'm like, okay, well, now I'm open to anything, and nothing surprises me. And you know, then it starts, I think, to happen less the more topics you get into. But still, like, I'm always open to changing my ideas. But for me, I would have to say my first initial where my mind started to open up was smoking weed at like 15, 16.
Oh yeah.
Just starting to just starting to open me up a little bit. I was a little bit shy, not like super confident socially, not socially awkward, but just like not kind of like able to be fully myself, I guess you would say. And that was kind of the first wave. But really, it was when I was, how old was I? And it was not till I was like 22 that I watched the Zeitgeist films. 22, 23 actually. You know, it was only a couple of years ago. With the Zeitgeist films, and I watched the first one, and I was just like, poosh. I felt like my whole mind exploded. I literally remember just like going to bed that night and be like, what the fuck just happened? Like, how does no one know this? Why is no one talking about this? You know, like, what the, like, am I crazy? I was thinking, you know, am I crazy? You know, that went on for a month. Like, I was just like, what the hell is going on here? And I'm, you know, then I, you know, it kind of, that was kind of, I would say, my initial like spring into it. I just became completely fascinated. I couldn't stop researching. I became especially interested in the banking system and foreign policy of the governments and the CIA and FBI. It was still very surface level stuff, but it was like getting into like, you know, disaster capitalism, Naomi Klein book. I was, you know, a lot of those topics that aren't as deep. And I remember just I would just spend all my time, you know, free time researching when I wasn't working. And this went on for, you know, a year or two. And, you know, several awakenings, you know, as I went, but nothing that I can remember that's so distinct as the Zeitgeist film. And while I have my issues with it now, that was really the springboard for it all. But then I actually went traveling for 8 months. I went to try to play pro tennis. Totally got burnt out after a month and a half, but then I backpacked for like 6, 7 months, and that was really, I didn't really do any research there, but it was a great kind of way to open me up more, like traveling by myself for a little bit with friends and hostels and just, you know, crazy, tons of partying, like ridiculous amounts of partying, but it was a fucking blast. But I tried to travel to like 20, 21 countries. It was fucking awesome. But then I came back, and then I had all this free time on my hands. Like I was working scantily here and there, so I had all this free time, and I went off the deep end. You know, I at first, before I did that, I was really into the progressive liberal. Like Young Turks, I was really into Young Turks. I was really into like that kind of progressive. I was like a democratic socialist. I was on to Bernie before he even announced he was running. Like I was very into it because and then I went down. I would say the Illuminati. Not, you know, there's tons of speculation, but I got into the families, the bloodlines, Satanism, occultism, and I was like, you know. That was like my second big explosion of my mind. I was like, holy shit, I only touched the surface before. Like I thought I had it. I thought I really went deep, and I didn't even go close to going deep. And from that point, I've just kind of nonstop, and I got so into it, and I was like, man, I need to write for this. I want to get involved. I feel like once you start doing a bunch of research, and I feel like that's why we're here today, is then you want to turn that into action. Like it takes time, I think, to understand it, and then to kind of, okay, you know, you start to kind of find yourself in many ways. You understand reality, but then I want to do something about it. I don't want to just sit here. What's the point in gathering all this knowledge if I'm not going to apply it? Mm-hmm. And so, like Anthony, I found an ad on Craigslist for The Last American Vagabond that our founder Ryan sent out, and I'd written in high school, and I thought I was pretty good at it, but I never really pursued it after that. I majored in accounting, which I don't even know why. I hate that shit. But I almost went into corporate, but I didn't, and I'm glad I never did that. But yeah, they answered the ad, and I started writing, and then and then the website started to evolve and actually turn into something. And from that point, I've just it's like I want to stay so connected to what's going on now. Like it's like connected to the source almost in a way. I think you want to create your own. It's not just being always tied into that information, but yeah, it's become like free thinking and understanding reality has just become such a passion for me now that I don't even know if I could leave it if I tried. Eventually I might be able to leave it for periods, but I'd want to come back. I just love staying on top of it now, and now it's kind of my passion to help others wake up, because I feel like subconsciously everyone wants to wake up. They might not know it consciously, and they might fight you. There's millions of defense mechanisms, but I do feel like, why would you not want to understand reality? And it is tough at first. I always remember this picture where there's I remember it posted on Reddit somewhere, where you have the guy who's looking at it's like a pretty reality, and then you see a guy with a couple books, and he looks over and it's really dark. He looks over the pretty reality, and it sees it's very dark behind. And then you see another guy on the third one, and he has books stacked really, really high, all the way to the sky, and you see the sun like shining. And so it's almost like at first you see all the negative shit, or at first you're blind, you're in a trance. And then I feel like you wake up, you see all the bad shit, and most people don't get past that. I feel like that's where oh no, I'm gonna stay in this little trance. But then I feel like if you keep going, then you start to see the light, and I feel like who wouldn't want to see that? And I guess that's kind of driven me to kind of help wake people up. And I feel like it's inevitable that we're gonna wake up. They're gonna try to pull some shit, no doubt, but I don't know if you can stop what's happening in this kind of age of information, the internet especially being like almost the driving force. But that would be my story, I guess. That's still going on.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
But yeah, so I guess that's that's all of us here.
I feel like we're like Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or something. Everybody telling their story. We love you, Tim. But I think this helps. I remember, back when I first had my big wake up or whatever, dude, I was scared because I figured I thought I was like one of the only people in the world that kind of knew what was going on. I was ready for black Suburbans to pull up in front of my house and then, bag me and stuff me, and you never see me again. But just knowing that there's a lot of other people that know what's up, millions by this point, it's not just there's not just 4 of us, there's millions. A lot of people know what's going on, Basically, anybody in Russia that kind of cares about politics knows what's going on. Their media it's not great, and it's still slanted, but as far as the big deception we got going on in ours, it's not so bad. So there's millions and millions of people that know what's going on. So I think just that's helpful to people to say, whoa, okay, I'm not the only one,
Yeah.
I'm kind of the opinion that we're like in the very beginning stages still of the awakening. Like if you think of it as a bell curve, almost in a way, like an idea adoption. Yeah. I feel like we're starting to really jump up exponentially, especially over the next few years. That would be my personal feeling on it. But I really feel like we're the early adopters of this. And like you said, I can't imagine people who 20 years ago, they were like way early. But I think now we're starting to really accelerate. Personally, I think that. But That's
Well,
me.
we're at a state where we recognize that corporate media is a huge problem, and you guys recognize that, and you're doing something about that. So I really respect that. And but I think we see that we have to generate our own media, and we have to generate our own culture, and that is, that is a mountain to climb. But you got to start somewhere. We the people have to make our own culture, and we have the tools to do it. We have what we need, but we just need more of us. We need more people generating content with good intent to it. That's not meant to beat people down and control people and that kind of thing. So this is part of it. Just people getting started creating their own content, and it's not hard to do. This is a Google Hangouts right here, and we say what we like about Google, and I have my own opinions about Google, but for now at least, this is a fantastic tool. We don't have to run any really powerful computer with video capture and multiple streams and that sort of thing. You're just streaming this straight to your YouTube page. Boom, done. So we can make an episode about anything, about occultism, about anything else, about nuclear 9/11, about whatever, and bang it out in a half hour, and you're done. You can leave it raw, or you can do editing or whatever. But we do have the tools to create our own media and distribute our own media. We don't have to own NBC or Fox or something like that to distribute media anymore. We don't need it. We don't need them. We just need to create good, compelling content that's going to be better and more interesting for people than Dancing with the Stars or whatever. So
I would hope we could do better than that.
Yeah, I'll bust a move from time to time, but
I guess we'll do some closing comments here. Anyone got any closing comments before we sign off here?
Well, I think what Jay was just talking about really is like a great way to kind of sign off on this one, because this is kind of our intent with all of this. That you gotta become the message that you want to spread to the world. You can't just hope that some great writer at the New York Times is suddenly gonna have an op-ed that shatters the world apart for everybody else. You gotta get in the thick of it and really start going at it. So, and show people how they can do that themselves, because we have to collaborate if we want to get anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anthony, any closing comments?
I guess I'd just like to say that it's not really like common conversation as was kind of touched on before, like talking to somebody about a quote unquote like awakening to realizations around you. And I think one of the ways that you're talking about that bell curve for more people realizing the reality of the situation around them is kind of like a social awakening, like Jay was talking about. I think a lot, there are a lot of people waking up like that, and it's important for people to get past the whole, like Dale Gribble, King of the Hill conspiracy theorist stereotype, like the crazy old cuckoo, and like the family dismisses, like we talked about my uncle beforehand, or during the recording, and he was that character in my family as well, and now you have children on Reddit, who are like 13, 14 years old, who are starting to speak conspiracy about Illuminati and New World Order. So, we just got to keep talking about it more. The only way to really up the ante is connectivity, networking.
Definitely. Jay,
I actually got to run. I hate to miss any other last comments, but it was a great chat. So
definitely
enjoyed it, Bob. We'll do it another time for sure.
Yeah, good to see you, Bob.
Let's chat soon.
All right, see you, man.
Any closing comments?
Yeah. Just to follow up on what Anthony's saying, that we're social animals, and it's going to take numbers for a lot of people. A lot of people simply form their opinions from what everybody around them is thinking, and I'm not immune. If it weren't for my Russian friends sitting there pointing and laughing at CNN, I don't know. I can't honestly say if it would have clicked. That might have been just a little the straw that broke the camel's back, or the pebble that caused the avalanche, or whatever. It's hard to say. So to a large degree, it's a numbers game, and I think the bad guys understand that. That's why they have so many PR shills all over Reddit and basically any forum that you can come across. There's their PR shills there. It's incredible once you learn to recognize them. But then back to our point about generating content, I just want to say, a lot of people have gifts that they're kind of keeping to themselves. Some people are musicians. They could be rappers. They could be visual artists. They could be journalists. They can be, just hang out on Reddit all day, whatever. But there's so many avenues that you can share your message of just positivity and truth, trying to help people understand what's going on. So if people are out there and they're kind of holding back because they're, I don't know, waiting for somebody else to do it, well, that somebody is you. You got to do it. You got to get off your butt and start doing work, because we need you. We need you. So.
Amen.
Yeah, well said. No, I totally agree with both of you. I mean, we just have to keep talking about this. The more we just sit back, stay silent, and wait for someone, I mean, that's what they want to do. They want us to wait for someone, and then they want to present him, and have us all fall for them again. And
Right.
It's the same cycle. Why do they think, why do they say history repeats itself? We got to do something different. It's going to require new thinking. And I am such of the belief that this is a decentralized movement. This is all, as Max Egan says, starting little brush fires all over, and that can culminate in a much larger fire. Taking back local city councils, like Jay said, everyone plays a part, but those add up. I always have this picture in my mind. So there's right now we have a system. It's like a clockwork system. But in a decentralized system of change, I think, you got all these individual nodes, and they all start connecting with each other, and then they start connecting a bunch, and they start to form like a consciousness almost.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it?
I remember Stormcloud's Gathering did a kind of had that artwork, and I always kind of liked it. But it's like all these individual nodes interconnecting. That's kind of how the internet is. That's kind of how the brain is. When you get more conscious, different nodes connect that weren't connected before. Because Terence McKenna talks about 100% connectivity is when all nodes are connected to all other nodes. I think that's why we research all these different topics, and they connect to that, to that. It's like connecting every subject to every other subject in a way. So just the more we talk about it, and one thing I wanted to stress too, and the reason I think we're doing this, we're just regular guys who like to who want to wake people up, who want truth out, who like to research, and so anyone can do it. I think to look to these labels as, oh, we need the top journalist to do it, we need the top paper to do it, we need these authority figures, these award shows to show how great. Well, we don't need any of that. We just need little brush fires all over the world, and I think if we keep doing that, we're making progress. There is no doubt about it. And if we just keep going, man, one person leads to two people, two leads to four, four leads to eight. You don't realize how fast these things spread, especially with the internet now and instant communication. Things are changing, and I think they're going to continue to go that way as more people wake up. I almost think it's an inevitability for people to wake up, unless some crazy shit is pulled, which I'm not saying it might not be. Yeah, that was my closing comments. Thanks. It looks like we had 2 viewers at one point. We got 1. Shout outs. I don't know who that is, but
Sweet.
So till next time. The TLAV Roundtable signing out.
Yeah, thanks
Peace.
for tuning in, guys. Peace.